honest.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. Let's see what happens. It's all your fault, by the way, if we don't get on now. All right, so let's see that. That looks like we got it. It looks like we got it. I guess you had just enough to get us on. All right, let's record this for for future generations. All right. Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. That must mean it's Whiskey Wednesday. All right, they don't hear that on Facebook Live, Brian. So, but it's funny.
It's funny, yeah.
We'll go with that.
It was a better response than the first one, anyway.
Yeah, well, all hail Zuckerberg. I didn't even get barely any response. He's lucky he let us on Facebook at this point. All right, everybody, it's Whiskey Wednesday. We got a very, very special guest tonight, Brian Nation, who is like, I was so, I got to tell you, I was all giddy that you were coming because, well, you've done so much in the whiskey industry, and then you've thrown it all away and done this. No, I'm just so. No, but Brian, you're part of, like, I hate to say this to you, but you're part of the old guard. Irish whiskey is, Brian Nation, Irish whiskey. That's synonymous with each other. I mean, it really is. And I just love the fact that you're here tonight talking about this whole new project. It's sort of a new way of thinking about whiskey that I don't think anybody's really sort of thought of before. And I think the part of this, though, that I want you to go through is we have to, in order for this to sort of work, you really have to teach people what you're doing, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's totally different from my previous role, definitely.
Yes. That would be different.
And I suppose, if somebody said to me in 2018 that I would have left the role that I was in to come and be involved with a distillery that was just starting up and move my whole family to Minnesota, it probably would have been something I would have said, yeah, how much have you been drinking tonight? But that's exactly what did happen.
I know, that's the weirdest part is, like, that's exactly what you did.
And that is exactly what I did. And to be honest with you, very, very happy that I've done it. And, lots of people ask, why did you do it? And I suppose for me, one of the big draws was the opportunity to be involved in building a brand from the ground up. I mean, if you consider all of the whiskeys that I was lucky and honored to be involved with over my career, they were all whiskeys that had hundreds of years of heritage.
Right.
And I was carrying on that tradition and really enjoyed doing that and was very honored to do it. But not many people in their career get the opportunity to actually start and be involved with a brand that actually doesn't exist, and you bring it to fruition.
You're bringing it to market, which is insane. So explain what Keeper's Heart is.
So the vision behind Keeper's Heart really is to bring the best of both Irish and American distilling traditions together. And we do that in two ways. One is by virtue of the whiskeys that you're going to taste tonight, which are whiskeys that we have sourced and actually blended together. So we've sourced Irish pot still, Irish grain whiskey from Great Northern Distillery in Ireland, and we've blended it with American whiskey, both rye and bourbon, that we sourced from MGP in Indiana.
Okay.
It's all 4-year-old whiskeys. So that's the first way.
That's like the step. That's the step, right?
Yeah. And then what we're also doing is we're actually producing American whiskey and distilling American whiskey in the Irish style of triple copper pot distillation.
Okay.
So we've been laying down stock since September 2021 of American single pot stills. So taking that quintessential Irish style of malted barley and unmalted barley, distilling it in copper pot stills, but Americanizing it by actually maturing it in virgin American oak barrels. And by virtue of doing that, you have to create a heavier style of distill to be able to cope with the virgin American oak. And then we're also producing the world's first triple pot distilled rye and triple pot distilled bourbon. So these whiskeys will actually come to life. The first one will be released probably in Q4 of 2025, which will be that American single pot still.
Okay.
And then we'll follow it in 26 with a triple pot distilled rye and 27 with a triple pot distilled bourbon. So really exciting times ahead as well.
It's insane. It really is. But here's what I think is sort of the cool part of that is you are so well suited to this role. There's not many people that would be, because of your experience, not only distilling, but actually blending.
Yeah, and I think, look, I've been very fortunate in the experience that I've gained to be able to bring all of that knowledge and experience to something like this. We're also fortunate that we have David Perkins as well on board in our
Oh, okay.
company, who was the founder of High West
Yeah,
Distillery.
no, love
And
Dave.
and you know, the thing about it for me was that was great. It brought great credibility from an American whiskey point of
Yeah,
view as well. And it also made sure that when we were blending our whiskeys together, that we were getting the balance right in terms of what the American palate was looking for. Because initially all of these whiskeys were launched in the US with a view to be to eventually being hopefully a global brand. We've already launched in Ireland, but our first market was America, and we wanted to get it right in the US.
well, getting with Dave, having Dave on board too. What I always loved about Dave too, in when he was in charge of whiskeys and doing whiskeys, is he had a definite eye to balance.
Yeah,
And not many people do anymore. And it's got we were talking about this yesterday about things going to so far extremes that people have lost track of what a balanced whiskey tastes like. And extremes are great for like a bottle, maybe,
yeah,
maybe a bottle.
yeah.
But extremes are great, unless you get caught into that thing where everything has to be extreme for you. But they're great for a little bit. But when you have a balanced whiskey, then you have longevity and you have people that go after that bottle again and again and
Yeah,
again.
and I think that's a great point, because one of the things that kind of we set ourselves out when we were putting these whiskeys together was to create a balanced whiskey, because by virtue of having the balance, you actually automatically develop the complexity.
Right.
And you know, if it's not balanced and if it's driven in one direction only and it's unidirectional, yeah, it can work for, you know, a short time, but it doesn't have that repeatability, it doesn't have that longevity. And for us, these brands, even or these SKUs, even as we're producing our self-distilled stock, these will stand the test of time as well. We want to keep these in our portfolio as we release
Oh,
our
so you're going to
self-distilled.
build, you're basically
Oh,
going to build on
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. So
Oh,
we're
okay.
gonna, like, these will remain in the Keeper's Heart brand, and then Keeper's Heart will release the single, the triple pot still rye, the triple pot still bourbon, and the American single pot still as well. So they will remain.
Oh, he wants to take over my entire shelf. That's the problem. It's gonna look like Keeper's Heart, like he owns like real estate in my store, and that becomes, well, no, you got to remember that does become like, I, God bless you, because that is one of the, that is a difficult task,
It is.
because you got to sort of have everything sort of kicking on all cylinders.
You do, and like we're always conscious of, you know, shelf space,
Right.
big time, but also you want your brand to be recognized. One of the things that we don't want to do, because we could do it, is be like nutty professors at the distillery and produce a number of different arrays of whiskeys,
Right.
because we think we can, but then you actually lose what you stand for.
Right.
We're standing for bringing the best of Irish and American distilling traditions together, and we're doing it in those two ways. So I think we have that opportunity to be able to put those whiskeys on shelf, and they all have an ability to create a different taste experience in that Irish and American whiskey style.
I you're speaking to an Irish American, so I'm not, I'm all for it. So before they start getting restless out here,
Yeah,
let's at least do like, and let's put your money where your mouth is, right?
yeah,
Or
and
put your
let's taste
whiskey
them.
where your mouth is,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So let's do. We're gonna start with the Irish American, the 43,
Yes.
86 proof, right?
So it's 86 proof, and this was the first whiskey we actually put together. We started out, we gave ourselves three objectives. Number one was create a great tasting whiskey, bit of a no-brainer. But you got to start somewhere. Number two is that any components that you use in putting the blend together delivers on the overall balance and complexity of the whiskey. And then number three is versatility. You know yourself, the way people drink whiskey nowadays compared to 10, 15 years ago, that landscape has changed dramatically. People want to experiment with whiskeys and cocktails and long drinks. So your whiskey has to taste good, neat on the rocks, but also be versatile in a cocktail. So this is a blend of Irish pot still, Irish grain whiskey, and American rye. What I love about this whiskey is this literally came from between 130 and 140 different prototypes. Because when we started out, our initial idea was we would start with an Irish+ bourbon, but at the time we didn't actually get a bourbon that we found would work well in this. and we tasted the rye component first, and that to me was the one that would work well in the blend.
Well, you're what's the age? What's the
So
age?
it's all 4 years.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it sort of to me it sort of makes sense because I think trying this, there's no graininess to it at a 4-year-old.
No.
And you're not going to get that with an American rye.
Yeah.
American ryes mature a little bit earlier than the bourbons I've found.
Mhm.
So you sort of knock out that graininess at an earlier age.
You do, and what I loved about this rye as well, it's a 95.5 MGP rye.
Yeah, it's the king of rye.
But it's just got a vibrance associated with it. I always describe it, even the texture. It's a whiskey that you could almost chew. So when you nose this whiskey, for me, you initially get that kick of rye spice, but it's quickly followed by the herbal earthiness of the pot still. When you taste it, I love the mouthfeel because you've got the combination of the creaminess of the pot still coupled with the syrupiness of the rye to give you this elevated level or extra dimension of texture to the mouthfeel. And the spices that are coating the tropical fruits of the rye and the cooked orchard fruits.
But you get this little bit of vanilla too.
You do,
right?
But what I love about the vanilla here is that
it's not over the top.
It's not over the top.
Yeah.
You're getting that influence of wood, but it's not a massively overly wood influence. And I love that because the Irish pot still being matured and the Irish grain being matured in the refill barrels, it brings down some of the wood contribution in the rye. And I just think it gives a fantastic combination of flavors.
When you brought over the Irish whiskey, right? Are you continually aging it in Minnesota?
We can't. Legally, we
right.
can't.
We can't call it Irish, right?
Because you can't call it Irish. So we bring it over. So what we do is we actually.
That's one of the questions. This is one of the questions I had. How do you do?
Yeah. So
how do
what
you
we
walk
do
around that?
is we basically transfer from the barrel in Ireland into an inert vessel. So plastic totes at the moment because we're not big enough to take in tanker. And then we transfer them across to the US. We do the same with our rye. We get them put into totes. We bring them to the distillery and we do our blend. We do not recask. We do not marry in cask afterwards. We literally just put the blend together and then bottle.
Are you putting it in? Are you blending it in like a stainless steel container?
Stainless steel container.
And how long are you leaving it to marry?
So we're leaving it mainly kind of 24 to 36, 48 hours is the max. Outside is all it's taken.
Okay. That's great.
And it's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the consistency and the repeatability of the flavor. Because we're small, we're doing it in small batches.
Yeah, so that leaves for more. You can get more drift that way. You can
get more drift,
right?
Well, we put the quality control systems in place to ensure that we're doing a number of tests at each stages to make sure we've got the consistency. And so far, so good. We're not seeing any drift to the point where you.
Well, what do you guys think? This is the important. We can prophesize all day and 100%. Tell everybody what it is but what do you guys think? Love it. Okay.
Yeah, it's what we're seeing. What we tend to be getting is a very positive reaction in relation to it almost delivering an extra dimension of flavor and taste compared to 100% Irish or 100% American whiskey. I think one of the big things for me that it shows is that it removes a little bit of the myth that Irish whiskey is too light and American whiskey is too robust. Basically, you're showcasing that you can bring the powerhouses of Irish whiskey and the powerhouse of American whiskey together and they can coexist. The interesting one from a blending point of view was that they couldn't coexist together with just two components, with the pot still and the rye or the pot still and the bourbon. They were constantly fighting against each other. It was the introduction of a small amount of grain whiskey that allowed the balance to take place.
Yeah.
And it actually developed the complexity, which was a big eye opener for me on it.
Who thought of that?
It was effectively I was trying it
just to see it would work.
I was
in the dark.
I was putting rye and pot still, rye and malt, bourbon and malt, bourbon and pot still together. I was kind of going, Jesus Christ, this isn't working. And because I started out with saying I'll just use those two types of components.
You were boxing yourself in.
Yeah. And then you could have been arrogant to say, oh, I'm going to be right and keep pushing and pushing. but I knew there was something missing. So then introducing a small amount of grain whiskey into it actually allowed it to work. So I was very happy I wasn't that arrogant to say, no, I'm right.
Start beating your head
Yeah,
against the wall.
exactly.
But it's one of those type of things. I think though, you've been doing this long enough to have that say like, oh, okay, step back for a minute. What am I really doing?
Yeah.
How do I really need to get this done? What am I missing? How am I doing it? And and you say, and I was teasing you, like saying like, it's the stab in the dark, but it's an educated stab in the dark.
It is.
Because you in your head already know like what certain things will do. Like, I need something to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, I should do this.
And
Let me try this.
And I think the other part of it is when you're doing it, you're treating it everything as a process to me, right?
Right.
I'm process oriented.
Because you got to be, once you get it though, you have to be able to repeat it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to be careful where you go.
You do, and you also have to know when to stop.
Right.
And that's one of the interesting ones was, when do you feel you feel it's right?
Right.
And then you get other people to taste it and they feel it's right. And then you have to say, okay, now we go with it.
I love this. Oh, it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
And then somebody else walks in, they try and they go, I don't even know what you were thinking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
And
exactly.
you pray that they're going like, there's some like semblance of them going, yeah. I get what you're saying. Okay. Well, there you go.
You're always nervous. I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
when you release something, then
no
you're
one
nervous.
understand, like a lot of people don't understand that. Like we pick Randall and I pick a lot of barrels, right?
Mhm.
And we do blending and we do some other stuff too. No one ever understand, like it takes a lot to get people to understand, you do, is that I'm not tasting this, I'm not building this for Ryan Maloney.
Exactly.
I'm not building this
Yeah.
for Brian Nash.
Yeah.
I'm building this for everybody.
Yeah.
And so like I said, if I only made stuff or picked stuff that I liked, I'd have a big warehouse full of whiskey because I don't drink enough to possibly get through it. And
Yeah.
And it's part of that thing is sort of stepping back and realizing that and going, okay, this has to be liked by everybody. I gotta figure this out.
It is, and the other side of it, people ask me, are you excited about the whiskeys that you're self distilling and all of that? And I'm going, I can be as excited as I want. It's only what excites me is seeing other people getting the opportunity to
Right.
taste them and see their reaction.
Right.
Because to your point, doesn't matter what I like at the end of the day. If people don't like it when they taste it, or if it doesn't sell, then
It
it's a
doesn't
failure.
matter. Right. And no, it's exactly. And people sometimes don't sort
Yeah,
of get that point.
yeah.
All right. So let's try. Okay. So for you guys, if you put this on, we're gonna sort of move across the top. The last two that we're gonna do, we sort of screwed the order up a little bit. We're gonna do all the high proofs are gonna be at the end. Okay. So if you if you took your tray and it's 1 through 5, and you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it lines up on the pad too. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to go across. We're going to do the Irish and the bourbon.
Yes.
Is the next one we're going to do. The Irish and the bourbon at 46 ABV or 92 proof. So I didn't ask you on the first one. Are you chill filtering on the first one?
Nothing.
So,
We're
so
not
they
doing
could
any chill
flocculate
filtration.
maybe,
They
but
could, yeah.
right.
They
But
do.
then we get the magic number on the Irish and the bourbon.
Yeah.
So the Irish and the bourbon is 92 proof, which sort of corrects for that problem for most things.
It prevents it mostly from happening.
Yeah.
But we have had situations with,
well, you're in Minnesota.
with
You're
the-
going to have
yeah.
those situations.
Well, actually, it was very interesting. We had the situation in Ireland when we brought it
Really?
over. Yeah.
Oh, because of the ship?
Because of the shipping,
Yep,
I'd
yeah.
say. And initially there was this kind of, oh my God, that people were, and then once you explain it and you can explain it away. And
We all know
understand it.
that if it's cloudy, it means it's good, right?
Yeah.
Because it means it's natural. There's no
Right. Exactly. So,
But that's how, it's funny because, but by the way, that's how the chill filtration really started. Teachers doing it because when the ships came over to give it to the United States, they were getting cold
cloudy,
and they
yeah.
were getting cloudy.
Yeah.
And so you had the same problem
We
going
had the
back.
same problem
Well,
going
there
back.
you go. Now we're even.
So now we're
Now
sorry
we're
to
even. Now we're
jazz.
even.
Yeah. No, it's a sign of quality. Yeah.
That's it. Now we've caught that, Brian. That's a sign of quality.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So the
Irish plus bourbon. When we looked at putting the second one out there, we saw the Irish plus American as really an opportunity for Irish whiskey drinkers to really kind of get the opportunity to taste a little bit of American whiskey. When we
Right.
started doing the Irish plus bourbon, we wanted to give it like we intentionally made it bourbon forward in order to make it more appealing to an American whiskey drinker
Okay.
to try this style of whiskey. And particularly with American whiskey drinkers, what I found is that they're very, very loyal, particularly if they're bourbon whiskey drinkers, to bourbon. And to get them to shift away from it at times can be quite difficult. So to give them that comfort factor of having all on the nose of the bourbon, but then having the pot still really taking shape in the mid palate, has really been an eye opener to people as they taste the whiskey. So when you nose this whiskey, this bourbon is a high rye bourbon. It's 21% rye.
Okay.
So it's a 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley. And what I loved about that bourbon element, or that bourbon whiskey, was the pepperiness of the bourbon itself got complemented a little bit, excuse me, by some of the spice coming through from the rye grain.
Okay.
And it brought a little bit more to it. And when you nose this whiskey, you're getting a lot of the bourbon on the nose. You're getting that corn sweetness. You're getting a lot of the charred oak. But now taste it, yeah? Yes.
What's the mash bill she wants to know?
75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley. So now just taste the whiskey, yeah?
Really nice. Finishes up nice and it's
Beautiful.
clean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got a longer finish, but it's clean too.
It elongates the finish, right? The pot still whiskey is elongated the finish. It has also taken some of that charred oak, freshly charred oak, a lot of wood towards the finish, and it's kind of taken some of it away without removing the impact of it, but it's brought a lovely barley cereal note to the finish as well, which for me is great because as a previous distiller of pot still whiskey and having it as a distillate driven whiskey, I love the idea that the barley cereal note really has a lovely nod in at the finish alongside the charred oak. And again, it's bringing that extra dimension that you wouldn't expect if you drank a regular bourbon whiskey.
You know, that's probably what you just mentioned also for me brings up another point, is that you got the bourbon notes in there, which is great because it gives it that little bit of sweetness. And that's really what Americans, we won't give up. We're used to sugary breakfast cereals. We don't have savory breakfast cereals. So like they do in Europe. Yeah. So we sort of like that little bit of that little bit of sweetness. Mm-hmm. But the other part is, I think bourbon especially is very age or barrel driven. Mm-hmm. And you just said the exact opposite. You were going to make something that was distillate driven. Yeah. And I think you're showcasing that now. We're sort of seeing that, okay, the bourbon, you can't change the bourbon. It's done. It's barrel driven because it went in there, the mash bill and the barrel work together to create this specific taste. But now you're entering something that is more, especially at a younger age, for your other component. It is distillate driven, and the combination of both really does create a pretty good balance.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. It's one of the things that when we're doing our self-distilled projects as well, is that we're trying to create, or we are creating, a heavier style of distillate that as it matures in the virgin American oak, you're still getting a lot of distillate character to the fore. And again, it's around balance for me, because sometimes there is the risk that when you're dealing with virgin American oak, that the wood takes over and you lose the opportunity to really showcase the beauty of the distillate. So that's one of the things we're finding with our pot distilled rye, with our American single pot still, and even our triple pot distilled bourbon, is that the distillate character, even at an early age where you're getting a lot of wood influence, is still there for people to enjoy and taste.
You're just trying not to cover it up. You don't want to cover it up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that has surprised me is some whiskey influencers that have come to the distillery have been very surprised that we openly taste them on our new make distillate.
Love new make.
And they're saying that it doesn't generally happen a lot in the US compared to in Ireland, where you do tend to taste
it doesn't happen in the US a lot. It does not. And there's certain places that I've been to. Whenever I listen, if somebody offers me new make, I'm trying it.
Yeah.
Because it really shows the character. You can't, it's like, we talk about like tequila, we talk about Blanco tequila. You can't make anything else well unless the Blanco's good.
Exactly.
Right. So it's the distillate sort of represents the same thing. I'll
Yes.
tell you a funny story later off camera about distillate and stuff. But there are certain places that the distillate itself could be sold just the way it is.
Mhm.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Springbank comes to mind. That's one of my favorite. It could just be sold that way. And I think I'd like to see more of it because it is more important for people to understand where their whiskey is coming from. It's not technically whiskey yet,
Yeah.
right? But you're getting all these flavors and they're coming from, your fermentation, they're coming from your yeast, they're coming from your distillation process,
Yeah.
where you're taking heads and tails, where you're doing all this stuff.
Mhm.
Getting stuff off the still can tell you so much about the whiskey that's going to be.
Exactly. And
Right?
that's one of the things that we showcase a lot now is our new make distillate. If you go on our tours at the distillery, you get to taste the distillate, all the stages through the first, the second, and final distillation. But not
That's
alone
great.
that, we actually use our distillate now in some of our cocktails as well because the distillate quality is so good that we actually are able to use them as white dog, we'll say, or whatever in our cocktails. And people are loving it because it's something different.
Because it's got flavor.
Yeah, it's got
It's
flavor.
got flavor.
Exactly.
I'm laughing recently. Randall and I were just talking about this whole thing with I sort of call it dirty vodka, but it's not. It's not. It's just that vodka that's not been distilled or filtered to the point where it's
not been
odorless,
rectified.
colorless,
Yeah,
tasteless.
yeah.
And they're sort of leaving some of the more character in it. And everybody's like, oh, it's got flavor. I go, yeah, White Dog and all that stuff have all had that right along. And that's why we've told a lot of people, yeah, if you want to use that, just use this instead, because you're gonna get what you're looking for as far as alcohol delivery system, but you're also gonna get flavor.
Yes, absolutely.
So-
And like it's just I was so surprised that it doesn't happen as regularly in the US as it would happen in Ireland in tasting new make distillate.
Right.
So something we're really proud for people to taste when they come.
Now, I guess we're going to Minnesota.
Exactly. Yeah. Make sure it's the summer.
All right. Well, yeah, let's make sure. Yeah, that's how do I do that? I'm gonna call him. Brett wants to go, so now I'm gonna figure out how to get Brett out there in the summertime.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
so we'll work on that one. Brett Pontoni from Binny's. We were talking about going out to visit you, and we're like, summer.
Yeah.
He said summer.
Summer, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. So okay, so these are going to be like the first two we've had is basically going to be your sort of flagship.
Yeah, so they're our core,
Right,
they're
right.
our core, they're our core SKUs. And then we're going to confuse matters even more because
Sure,
the
why
third
not?
whiskey we're actually going to taste is 100% Irish whiskey. It's a 10-year-old single malt.
Okay.
So
Because why not?
because why not exactly?
No one's ever going to yell at me for saying like I want to try a 10-year-old Irish whiskey.
Exactly. This 10-year-old single malt is actually malt whiskey that's from Cooley Distillery, but we secured it through Great Northern Distillery.
Okay.
This malt, the characteristics of this malt it could have gone in a bottle on its own. It didn't need anything to be done to it as such, but we wanted to do a little bit of an enhancement. And it's back to your commentary there earlier on about balance as well, not making sure that like still keeping the DNA of the whiskey alive, but just bringing a little bit of enhancement. And one of the things for me was I wanted to bring a little bit of a texture to the mouthfeel, because for me, 10-year-old single malts or single malts in general can be that a little bit drier in the palate compared to pot still whiskey. So I decided to finish it in Malaga wine barrels. I only did it for 4 months.
Okay.
And the 4 months
Just gave it sort of a
just to
kiss,
give
a
it
nudge.
kiss. I was laughing when you showed me the French kiss there,
French kiss,
because when you were saying 4 months, that's all I was looking for
Right.
as well. Yeah. And what it did was it brought a lovely texture to the mouthfeel, almost like a silkiness to the mouthfeel. But then it also added a little bit of honey, sweetness, almond, nutty flavors, and apricot, stone fruit, all on top of the beautiful malty characteristics that is that.
That's a
Cooley
fortified
malt.
wine, right?
Yeah,
I'm not
it's a
familiar with
Spanish. It's a Spanish
Spanish, right?
dessert wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So effectively, it's sun-dried grapes that really concentrate their sweetness.
Yeah.
And it brings this beautiful, syrupy, sweet wine. And I'm a lover of it because I like to spend a little bit of time in Malaga.
Yeah.
And as it happens, we made our final decision. Myself and my wife made our final decision to move to Minneapolis in Malaga, drinking Malaga wine in a place called El Pimpi. So I think it was a nice little bit of
let's rewind this a little bit and I'll think about this for a second. You're in Malaga, Spain.
Yeah.
Drinking Malaga wine.
Yeah.
Which is delicious.
Yeah.
In Spain.
In Spain.
On probably vacation, right? Holiday.
In January.
in
on
January.
vacation
In
after
January.
coming back from Minneapolis.
Yeah, and then decide to move to Minneapolis.
Yeah. So what happened was, it was very strange
What did
kind
you
of
put in
period
that
of
wine?
time. Well, I'll tell you a part of it is that when we were thinking about doing this, we said we needed to see Minneapolis and see, is it a place we could live or whatever.
Right.
And we decided to go on the 1st of January 2020 to Minneapolis. And when we got there, it was it was beautiful weather. It was 39 degrees, probably even close to 40 degrees for the 4 days. It didn't snow. There was snow on the ground, but it was beautiful blue sky. And the O'Shaughnessy's were telling me, it's like this all of the time. Now I know they fucking lied. They totally lied on that one.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. So
Right.
we came back, and myself and my wife were saying, look, big decision here, we need to think about it. And my wife had already bought me a Christmas present of actually going to Malaga. And we were going in January. We were going mid-January.
Yeah.
So we went in mid-January to make our final decision then. So we went and it was beautiful weather. Now it was kind of 67, 68 degrees.
Right.
And we're sitting in this tapas bar, but it's on an outdoor terrace. And I'm an engineer, so I had my notebook with all the pros and cons of why I should stay or why I shouldn't stay. And I'm sitting out drinking Virgin Malaga wine, and I take out my notebook, and my wife is looking at me. She goes, "What's that?" I said, "It's the notebook with the pros and cons of whether we should move to Minneapolis or not." And she goes, "Feck that. We're going, and that's it." I won't say exactly what she said
I get
about
it.
the notebook.
We understand
but
Irish.
the notebook did not remain on the table.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it is to this day, but the Virgin Malaga
decision
wine
was
went
made.
down well, and it was great. So then to be able to come along and do something with this was a little bit of a nod to that as well.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice story attached to that.
There's a nice story.
Yeah, it is. Listen, and I don't want to I don't want to come off and say like, oh, bad place to live. Not. It's a beautiful place to live. You just got to understand that they have winters.
Oh, Jesus, they
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. There's no
And
denying.
we had like 22 and 23 were bad winters. This year, the winter didn't exist at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we had probably 2 big dumps of snow, but I mean, what's a dump of snow now among friends? But in 22 and 23, there was lots of dumps of snow.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like for us to move over there, it was a big decision because I have 3 kids as well, and 2 teenage daughters and a
I have
son.
2 of those. Yeah, I understand.
So not an easy decision to
No,
make.
especially the whole family.
Yeah, but they love it. They've
Great.
really settled in well, and they're happy. And I think once your wife and kids are happy, it makes it a lot easier, because this project wouldn't have continued if they weren't happy. I mean, they come first at the end of the day, and that will always be the case. So, I mean, I'm very fortunate that they were so much behind it, and we're having a ball. We really are.
Oh, great.
So,
so what do you guys think of this?
Let's taste it, yeah?
Yeah, what do you guys think? We've been talking, they've been drinking. You know that, right? Okay, just like the finish.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. And I also think there's almost like a hint of peat coming through in it, right? Which
almost like a smokiness.
It's almost like a smokiness, but it's coming from the Malaga barrel as opposed to the malt itself.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it's brought something unexpected into the whiskey, which it was voted as world's best Irish whiskey for 2023 by the San Francisco International Spirits Competition. Which was a big surprise for us, something that we were really proud of.
It's delicious.
And what was even more interesting was it wasn't available in Ireland. So a few weeks later, it was then available in Ireland after winning that award.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, but we're not going to give it in Ireland. So good luck with that. You have everybody in the country hating you. Yeah, that's great.
Pardon?
That's from Cooley.
Cooley, yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be very interesting for us, because we have Cooley stock up as far as 2025 release, and then the 2026 release. Once we go to 2016, that's Great Northern Distillery malt, totally different. Still a great malt, but totally different to Cooley. So it's going to be very interesting. Do I blend it out, or do I take the step change? And how long more do I need to put it in the Malaga wine and all of that, or do I need to do less?
Time, and it's going to probably change.
Yeah, so there's going to be lots of different challenges. And I look forward to that, because, I think that's the beauty about doing stuff like this. When you're playing with aged stock that you source, you can try something different. Yeah, Border John Teelings, exactly. Yeah. Well, no longer Cooley, no longer. Yeah.
What do you guys, you like everything so far? Good? Yeah? Excellent. Well, listen, you're batting 1,000 right now.
So
Yeah,
far,
that's
so good. Yeah, so far, so good.
All right, so now we're gonna sort of take not a step back, but we're gonna do some higher proof.
We're going to
stuff.
go higher proof, right? So one of the things and look, coming from Ireland, high proof whiskey in Ireland wouldn't be as big as it would be in the US. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not having you don't have a lot of people that are looking for, a lot of cask strength or anything like that. They like the odd one, but there seems to be a greater interest in high proof whiskey in the US than there would be in Ireland. So when we were doing the Keeper's Heart Irish+American, part of what we were offering with that was we were offering the opportunity for people to do different cask finishes. So you mentioned earlier Sauterne, we were doing Cab Sauv, we were doing stout maple syrup. And what we were doing was we were giving people the opportunity to choose a barrel of different finishes. And when we'd bring them to the distillery, we would bring them all to 110 proof and have Keeper's Heart Irish+American at 110 proof and ask people to choose their favorites.
Right.
Sometimes people were choosing the 110 proof with no finish. And then we were doing some of our own internal releases into distillery. And when we did a similar tasting, a lot of the consumers there were saying, the 110 proof is amazing. So being a small distillery, we were able to pivot and we said, let's do a batch of 110 proof whiskey. We did it. It sold well. So we said we'd continue with it as a SKU.
It's funny because, you say that, but I've been getting a lot of, when I fall into the social media thing and I start looking at things, I'm seeing a lot more people saying about cask strength. A lot of people saying, I don't like cask strength. It's too much of a punch in the gut to me. That, when are they going to come up? Why aren't these guys producing stuff that's lower in proof? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I can't. And here's my argument with it is most things that come in at cask strength, especially like 120 and above, I don't drink at that proof.
Yeah.
I add water to it. And I bring it down probably my personal preference on most things is somewhere probably between 100 and 110. And, people are like, oh my God, you can't add water to whiskey. And I'm going, well, you're drinking stuff at 86. You're drinking stuff at 80. I mean, how do you think they get it there? I'm going to let you on a hint. It's not magic. They're adding water. So you could add water, they could add water. And it's usually not a lot of water. Or if you want to add, something like these that we've been tasting, it's so much flavor. You could put an ice cube in there, especially in the Minnesota heat of the summer. You can put something in that and it's going to add a little bit of water to it. It's going to bring it down a little bit. I personally like a lot of the whiskeys that are coming out at that like 110.
Yeah.
100 to 110. I like Bottled and Bond. I like 110. 110, I may add or may not add water to that, but it's sort of in my palate comfort zone. I'm tasting enough stuff. I'm not getting blown out by alcohol. It's not deadening my senses. And then I can enjoy a glass of it.
Yeah.
I'm not worrying about that I'm losing taste.
And I totally agree with you. What I do find about these whiskeys, right, and you'll see it as you taste 110 and the cask strength of bourbon, is that because of the influence of the Irish and the impact of Irish, it actually doesn't drink like 110.
Right.
The Irish brings almost like a mellowing. The way I describe it is that if you take Keeper's Heart Irish+American at 86 proof, that's the Americano. This is the espresso.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've got all of the concentrated flavors, exactly the same blend, no change.
Okay. So the only difference between the two is the proof. So when you know, so when you don't have if we don't have any 86 in, you buy the 110 and add water.
And then you add water. Yeah, it goes a long way.
Right? We call that whiskey concentrate.
Yeah.
Right?
So just taste 110.
That's lovely.
It doesn't drink. It's dangerously good in terms of the 110 proof for me. I'm used to drinking when I would drink 110 proof, there's a little bit more burner bite to it. For this one, it's got a lovely warming impact.
It stokes the fire, but doesn't choke the chimney.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know
like that. I like that one. I could rob that one.
Yeah. You won't be the first one. But it does. It's sort of like, you get that warm feeling, but you don't get it in the back of the throat where you feel like you're going to like start coughing.
Exactly. Right. So, and I mean, for me, what it does, I think it brings a lot more of the rye spice to life in the
Mhm.
whiskey.
Mhm.
I think it has, because at the higher proof, that vibrance of the rye comes more to life in it.
Yeah.
And it just,
It's got a
to me,
beautiful
very
finish,
easy
and it
to
almost
drink.
goes to
Yeah.
honey.
It does, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the finish.
I think that the confectionery sweetness again is concentrated within it, and you're moving from almost like a candied ginger in the Keeper's Heart Irish+American in the 110. It does move more towards a honey style finish. Yeah.
I will tell you guys right now, you have a chocolate. If oh well, you had a chocolate.
Well,
If you still have your chocolate, um, this would be the one that I would probably have it with, because the flavor components that are in that I think would go really well. Now I just added a little bit of water because I wanted
yeah.
to sort of see what that does to the 110. It's beautiful. Um, there's nothing better. I can't have the chocolate because I'm allergic to nuts, so I have to be very careful of what I have for chocolates and stuff like that. But there is a chocolate and whiskey go great together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
They are a great pairing. So, and these were made special. Which one was it made with?
The final whiskey, which is the Irish plus
It was,
bourbon cask.
it was made with the final one. So I told you to eat it sooner than I should have, but it didn't matter because most of the people already ate it.
Yeah.
So I like this one a lot.
Yeah,
I
I love it.
really think that's a beautiful whiskey right
It
there.
has been, one of the things we talk about around versatility and all of that is that when you look at Keeper's Heart Irish+American and Irish+Bourbon, the core, we have old fashioned with the Irish+American, we have the Manhattan with the Irish+Bourbon, and then during the summer you've got the Mule with the Irish American, and you've got the whiskey lemonade. But then when you move to the higher proof, you've got the, like, for the Irish+American at 110 proof, the Sazerac works extremely well.
There you go.
And then a Boulevardier with the Irish+Bourbon cask strength. And that's one of the things that people have, a lot of bartenders have told us, is that the whiskeys do lend themselves very well in cocktails.
Okay.
And that's important for the brands nowadays to be able to do that.
You have to have that, it's great, but everybody doesn't drink it straight.
Yeah.
They want to try it in a cocktail, and when we say cocktails, it's like, it's not one of those things where you're trying to hide it. You want to accentuate
Still has to be the hero.
I
mean, how many times do you taste a cocktail and you go like, I don't taste the cocktail for the syrups or the bitters, but sometimes it loses the hero, which is the liquor.
Right.
And that's one of the things we want in our cocktails. One of our biggest seller at our distillery would be the old fashioned using Keeper's Heart Irish+American. It outsells even the food at the distillery, right? It's just an amazing drink. And then the Manhattan and the Irish+Bourbon really goes extremely well as well,
Well, it's so bourbon forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can see that.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. So what did you guys think of the 110 proof? Favorite?
Brilliant.
Oh, brilliant.
So we haven't tasted the Irish Plus cask or the Irish Plus
Oh,
bourbon
yeah, you're
cask
not done
strength
yet, though. Yeah,
So
you're not done, so it may not be your
it
favorite.
may not be the favorite.
Oh,
you never
wait a
know.
minute, he has no whiskey left. It probably
okay.
is. Jeez. All right, he's gone through
All right.
he already knows. He's a repeat customer. He's gone through 3 bottles of it. Not here tonight. Please do that at home, okay, sir? All right. So,
but the cask strength is exactly the same thing in terms of it's the same blend as the Irish Plus bourbon.
Okay.
But instead of it being at 92 proof, it's at 118 proof.
So, do you have to bring this? I know you said cask strength, but because when you do this, you're going to have it's going to fall different. You know that it's going to be above 118, so you might have to adjust it slightly.
No, we will do it as different, like as we do the next bottling of it.
Yeah.
If it's 119, we'll put
It'll
it at
be
119.
119. Okay.
Yeah.
That ain't that bad either. That's pretty good. That's a New England compliment, though.
Just so ain't that bad?
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's
a New England compliment. Only in New England we do use a negative as a positive.
Actually, you're not in Ireland. We do.
You
it
do
as
that.
Well,
maybe we got it from somewhere. Maybe we got it from somewhere.
We do that in Ireland as well. The Irish-American influence again.
There we go.
Here we go. I love the Irish bourbon cask strength because for me it does have a little bit of a tingle on the tongue.
Yeah.
But my God, as you go down, as it goes down the palate and over the palate, there's no burning. It's just beautiful, and it's got that mellowness again because of the influence of the Irish whiskey.
It goes
Yeah,
to, it
it
finishes
does.
saying it
Yeah,
goes to the sweet
I
side.
would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Now, now for this one,
Now try
we
your
can
chocolate.
use the Randall Bird method. Instead of adding water to the whiskey, you add water to your mouth and then drink the whiskey.
Huh. I drank all mine,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Delicious. That's really good. That's really good. I like that a lot. Beautiful whiskey. And what are you finding? Just out of curiosity. Now we've tasted all the whiskeys now, right? So out of curiosity, you're traveling around, you're going through the stuff. I'm like the waiter. I'm waiting until you get a big mouthful of food. So I'll prolong the question a little bit. What are you finding as you're traveling around and you're talking to people? And of course, they're getting to try it, they're getting to know the product. What is your biggest hurdle? Because like we put this in the Irish section.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We put it in the Irish section, but it really technically doesn't have to go there. You're sort of in a no man's land, right?
I think the best place for us is if the Irish section and the American section run into each other right in the middle. That's fantastic. In America, we love it in the Irish section because
Right.
the American section is so big
Mhm.
and the Irish whiskey section is much smaller. It tends to stand out more in that.
Right.
But to your point about the question, what is the biggest kind of the biggest obstacle we have?
Yeah.
I suppose it's the education that
Right.
people don't see it as just a gimmick. And
Wow.
in order to ensure that doesn't happen is the liquid to lips. It's the demos. We
Yeah.
spend, like Connor here and Beth, our senior director of sales for the US, is basically constantly having teams out tasting people on it. Because once they hear our story, once they taste the liquid, they go back for more. They do like it. They do get that extra dimension of flavor, taste, and complexity. So it's really around education on the liquid to lips, and it's a big one for us. We're in 21 states,
Mhm.
and successful in those 21 states and growing. But it's all around education.
Right.
And we've another education piece to do when we come out with our self-distilled, because
Right.
what's the influence of the triple copper pot distillation?
Right.
Why is it different? What sets it apart?
But hopefully by that time you get enough people that are bought into what you're doing
Yeah,
to that now they're already receptive to listen.
exactly. And they see the quality of the whiskeys that we're producing are kind of, we have almost like a quality mark, and people are going, okay, if they're releasing something, it must be good.
Right.
And they go to it that way. But there's a lot of education for it. I mean, we're tiny, we're growing, but we want to be out in the market telling people about it and explaining the story behind it as well.
Fantastic. Listen, I want to thank you very much for coming here today, because it's I know you flew in. I think you just got off the plane from Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But no, it's brilliant. Look, I love doing this, right? And I remember the last time I was here, I had a great time here. Probably extended my time afterwards to
Yes.
another place
Yes,
afterwards.
you did.
But
And
it
I've
was
heard stories
great.
about
You've
that.
heard
And yes, I've
stories,
heard stories.
legendary stories,
Legendary
yeah.
stories.
But it's
That's
fantastic.
what we'll go with, legendary stories.
No, it's great. And it's great to get the opportunity to talk to people about our whiskeys, because we are very proud of what we're doing. We're tiny, we're growing, and we're having fun as well. And
That's
look,
the
at the end
biggest
of the
thing.
day, you have to have
You
fun.
have to have, definitely have to have fun. Thank you very much,
No
sir. I
problem.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks a
Thank you,
million.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. You guys
Thanks.
all stay here. Brian Nation, keeper's heart. Keep that in your stuff there. We'll get off. We're gonna stop recording. Yes. See everybody from Facebook. You should have been here. It was awesome. And let's get off of there.